What's going on, everybody? What's up? What's up? How y'all doing today? Gonna do the long-awaited tower tier list today. So, you guys get ready to bring your input. Now, since, let's just look at it. I mean, there's huge variances between early game and late game. And I think the only way to do a true tower tier list is going to be factoring in end game stats and runes. So all towers or all defenses will have, Massacre, Lycan King bonus wave or higher gear, and all the proper rune slots. Because you look at something like, say, Proton Beams, early game, that would be an S tier defense all day. Late game, not so much. So you would lose, it would be a little bit misleading doing early game versus late game. In fact, that's a whole nother conversation. Maybe another day we do an early game one and test all the stuff early game. The other thing is, how do we do it? Do we lump everything all together? Do we do it in categories? Do we do it by hero? What do you guys think? I mean, obviously, in Snare Aura is going to be S tier, right? But where do you compare that to a PDS? They're both going to be S tier. So, I mean, do we categorize things by damaging defenses, support defenses, and blockades? Or walls in general? Exactly what do we do there? Yeah, I think by category is probably the best way, Zach, I would agree. So let's take a look here. We got, I put this tier maker template together, so we'll be able to play around with this stuff. I will put links to everything after we're all done. But why don't we, and we can go back to the game. If anyone wants to look at anything in game, we can go back to the game. However, let's factor in end game gear, full runes. So, the runes can be quite changing. Every defense gets massive benefit from runes. So why don't we start off with walls? Well, I mean, this is a tower tier list, not a hero tier list. That's a whole nother conversation. Again, there's no giveaway today. I'm multicasting to multiple platforms. Can't do giveaways that way. Yeah, all fusion defenses. I mean, normal in the current state of the game, you don't use normal gear end game. So we're looking at end game setups. So all rifted gear, full on proper passives, the whole enchilada with runes. So let's start off looking at walls. What do we have for walls? Well, I mean, you got to put the archer into that conversation because since we're going with runes. See, that's another thing, it's how deep do you want to go, is the thing. I think for damaging defenses, we can lump them all together. And you have to judge them. You wouldn't compare AoE defense to a single target defense, You would have to rate it based off of its own performance, rune value. Is it usable on most maps? Things like that. But let's start off with walls. So we got archers. We got the elemental blockade. What am I missing? We got the reflect beam, because the reflect beam is a wall with the rune. And remember, we're going full runes. We've got the root. Now, here's another prime example with runed versus not runed, is the roots. Am I missing the... Or no, there it is. I thought I was missing the Guardian's blockade there. We got that. Am I missing any? The slice and dice could be brought into that conversation, but since we're talking about runes, the slice and dice is no longer a blockade. Oh, the ogre. Yeah, good call. The ogre. What else? Are we missing anything else? I think we got everything now, right? The slice and dice, since we're going off a runed, it's no longer a wall, so you wouldn't categorize that one in. But all right, so just let me know in chat what you guys think. Let's start off with the Archer. Now remember, the Archer's rune allows it to heal. In this particular tier list, since we're going all walls, we have to factor in proper usage. So not only endgame stats, not only runes, but using properly. Which means there's always going to be a strength drain aura. There's always going to be a fused buff beam on them. So that would be the proper usage of how to use any wall in the game, no matter what wall it is. So with that in mind, I personally would put the Archer as S tier. In fact, I would go as far as to say I think it's the best wall in the game. Now, it has aggro issues. If you don't block the lane properly, mobs will walk around. But it can live through an enormous amount of damage. Additionally, it's a wall that you can change targeting of. So, you know, do you want it hitting strong enemies? Do you want it hitting flyers? Depending on the use for it, you can set it up however you want. So, I mean, I personally think Archers are S tier. Anybody not agree with that? Or what do y'all think? Anybody else? We got Cyberfire says it's an S. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? I'm gonna leave it at S tier if no one disagrees. I mean, we can always move stuff around as we go through. Now let's look at Archangel says S tier. Let's look at these two, and I want to actually compare these two in game since their runes are very, very similar. We got the Apprentice and the Squire's blockades. So if we take a look at those in game here, let me see. Let me grab myself Apprentice as well. Just any old Apprentice will do. And let's look at these runes. Okay, the Spike Blockade rune, every 1 second when the Spike Blockade is attacked, it shoots out 5 piercing projectiles. Thanks for following there, Stavlix. Damaging enemies for 250% tower health each. So if we look at this number, basically 1250% tower health every second. So once per second. 1250 total, assuming all 5 of those piercing projectiles hit. Now, if we look at the Apprentice, that rune, Magic Blockade, deals area of effect damage when attacked, dealing 1250% of max defense health as damage. Damage type is a rotating damage type with a cooldown of 1 second. Now, as far as the numbers go, they're identical, because the scaling is the same as well. So if we looked at, say, this, let's get the fort to the same. Oh no, I'm not going to be able to get it. Let me see what my Squire's fort is at. Is it that low? It's not that low. Okay, my Squire is at 5565. So if we throw 1 there, let's get the Apprentice up to 5565. Which we can do here. Maybe. All right, so identical fortify stat. This one's 483.9, that one's 483.9. So as far as their health scaling, they're identical. You do Dooneater bonus difficulty is the best way to get Supremes. They're still real rare. Everyone is asking how I got so many Supremes. First off, realize it doesn't mean anything, because I ended up trashing most of those because they're all junk. Being Supreme does not mean anything. So don't focus on that. Focus on getting gear with the right stats and the right passives. But if you want Supreme items, do need or bonus difficulty, mixed mode is going to be the best way to get them. So anyway, their scaling is exactly the same. And since they're both 1250%, those would both be the same. It'd be the same amount of damage output. The difference is the spike blockade is going to shoot these spikes forward, only hitting enemies in the front. Well, what if it's a copter ogre that landed in the back and is smacking it? Well, the spike blockade's not going to do any damage to the copter ogre. The elemental blockade, however, is an AoE explosion around the blockade. So, although thematically I love the spike blockades much, much more, I personally would say you would have to rate the elemental blockade higher than you would the spike blockade, just based off of that. They're basically the same tower, and their damage is dealt differently. So same amount of damage. This one's 360 degrees. This one's straight out from the wall. Would everybody agree with that? So where do you put them? I mean, to be honest with you, I really think that the elemental blockade is also really close to S tier. I mean, I would say we don't want to stack everything in S tier, but if we went A tier, then I would feel obligated to drop the spike blockade to B tier because the elemental blockade is noticeably better. Both A tier? I mean, they are really. They are both A tier. I agree. But the elemental blockade is better than the spike blockade. So what do? Do you move the elemental blockade up? Do you leave them both A tier? Do you count the A tier as this is the best and this is the worst? So as we throw more things up there, it expands out? I think we'll just do that. Let's leave them both at A tier for now. Because, I mean, they're both really good. They both are really good. All right, let's move on. Now, this guy right here, I think it's got to go there. You take an A-tier support defense, you throw the rune on it, and then now it loses its support benefit. It still blocks projectiles, but it doesn't reflect the projectiles. Instead, it absorbs the damage, which means it also is taking damage there. I mean, I think you gotta leave it there. I really do. What do you guys think? Am I not giving it enough credit? Should it be moved up? I think the rune just ruins the support function. I really do. Where they're so good in every situation in the game when they're used as support. Well, I mean, they would be, without the rune, they wouldn't be in this category and they would be S tier. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, that is just an S tier support defense. It really is. If it stopped damage passing through, yeah, that's true. Like if a Cobalt exploded or whatever, it stopped the damage pass through. But I really think you got to leave it there at F. Because remember, this list is with runes. So with runes, that one just gets ruined. All right, here we got another curious one. Because this one is the exact opposite. In my opinion, I think that the utility you get out of this makes it an A tier. I really think it does. I think if you remove the rune, it comes down here. So it's like the exact opposite. I mean, it's even arguable whether or not you would put it at S tier. Its basic function as a blockade is just not great. But the utility it adds to the game with the slow is enormous. I think it's just as good, if not better, than the utility of these. Let's move that one over there. Well, that's what we're doing. We're judging them in endgame gear with max runes. That's their optimum. Yeah, I think as a blockade, this one wouldn't fall in here. But if we were doing support defenses right now, I think it would be S tier. So where does the root go? Does it go to B? Does it go to C? I mean, I agree with that because as a blockade, it's not wonderful. It gets smashed really fast. The health scaling is poor on it. Yep, that's what we're doing. Is it B or C? What do you guys think? Think it's a solid B? Anybody else? I kind of think as a wall, it's a C. Probably put it in a C as a wall. All right, let's just leave it there. We can, like I said, we can always move stuff later. Okay, next up, we got the Guardian's Wall, which has got a crazy cool utility with it. With the rune. Well, let's look at it real quick. Let's pop in and take a gander at that bad boy. Let's get rid of these. Actually, you know what? Let's leave them at the same. Let's leave these down. That way we can compare the health as well. What was that health at? Is it 55-65? So let's grab a Guardian. We'll grab good old Hitchcock here. We'll put her at 55-65. And take a look at the scaling. All right, so it's got the exact same scaling, 483.9 health. So it's the exact same scaling as these two. And then the rune on this one, the Holy Bulwark now heals 20% of damage received from the towers it is protecting. What this is referring to, of course, is the Holy Bulwark, the ring on the ground. It's going to protect towers in that ring. So if you had, say, a Holy Cannon behind it and an Ogre cleaved it, the Holy Cannon wouldn't take the damage. The wall would. Here's the problem. As a wall, it's really good like that, but you have to give it more support than you would have to give anything else. Like these, you don't need to throw a mage here to heal. I mean, 150 plus is nothing. Archer will handle 150 plus like it's easy peasy. Just in itself with the rune, the problem is if you're going to use it in any other fashion. So say you're going to go something like this and throw a bunch of poons back behind it. Now, I haven't used it a lot, and the reason I haven't used it a lot is I've had terrible luck with it. It gets destroyed so quick because all the damage it's soaking up from these guys, plus the damage here, the rune doesn't give it any value. It's like the heal you barely even notice. It just, the wall just caves in. Well, I mean, we're judging, this is a list off of endgame gear. So you have to just imagine endgame gear. That's the thing, is it's not. It doesn't become invincible. In fact, it dies super, super fast. It's 20% of the damage done from each one. It's not 20% of the total damage taken. So 20% of the damage this one takes, 20% of the damage this one takes, all goes into it. I mean, if you put it into a map and watch it, it takes mad damage. I mean, we could do that real quick if you want. Let me give it more. That's 6,400. That's not fantastic, but let's see. Let's go something like this. Let's run in here and just look at this. And say we were doing a build something like this. Well, I mean, of course we got to properly defend it to make it a fair comparison. So we're going to give it an ensnare aura. We'll give it an electric aura too, just to burn off the trash mobs, and a strength drain aura. And then we'll throw down, is this one ruined? It is. Oh, this one is not, we got to go fused buff beams. So say we went like this. And then we went, well, let me see, let's get a buff beam down. We'll just throw this buff beam, throw this one back over here if we can get it back here. And we'll give it a buff beam. This might be too much power, actually. This is my most geared hero. Yeah, but the thing is you can do 150 survival with no walls. So, I mean, judging it off 150 survival is not judging it properly. I mean, I go to 300 with this build here with no walls. All right, where were we? I got too many mix and match heroes in the deck and spots that they normally aren't at. What, move the wall out further, you're saying? I mean, it kind of... I don't really see how that's... But alright, let's put it at max range. We'll put it at max range. Just so everybody feels like it's a fair comparison. I mean, there an ogre's not even going to hit it. I don't think. And it's going to be outside of the siren bubble. That's going to be too far. That's a little better. Well, I mean, you can't put it any farther back. Put the wall behind the towers? I mean, I'm not seeing how that's going to change anything, y'all. Putting the wall behind the towers. Yeah, it's not a traditional barricade for sure. All right, all right. We'll put it behind the towers. I think we might have to turn it around weird. Actually, we can do that. I mean, it's not... I don't see how that's going to change the amount of damage it takes. I know exactly how it works. No, there is not going to be a mage. We're judging this wall off of its function. We're not going to give it anything outside of the basic stuff. There will be no mage. Well, I mean, let's just check it out. Got to give it a buff beam though. Is it getting it? Yeah, it's getting it. Or is it? Yeah. Yeah, but cleave damage is the same here as it is here. There's no difference in cleave damage. Well, the wall is going to get hit. I mean, this is end game setup. Any little guys are going to die out here. They're not going to hit any of this stuff. But all right, I'll do it like you guys want me to do it. Let's see. So let's move these out. Can't remember who's in what slot. Let's give it a buff beam. Well, I mean, I just don't see the point of having it here. If you're going to put it so that the wall is out of range of everything, then it's not being a wall. It's the thing. It's just extra DU that you're wasting. I mean, if I put the heat cannons at maximum range, nothing is going to hit it. And then it's not a wall at all. It's a support tower. This is supposed to be a judge of blockades, not support defenses. I mean, these flamethrowers are just going to melt everything, and these are going to be pointless to even have. In this situation, these are a complete waste of DU. But it doesn't, though, is the thing, because nothing is going to hit these, is what I'm saying. These aren't going to be a wall. They're going to melt everything. Well, I mean, let's go with less of them. Let's go with 2. That way something will at least make it there. Might have to go with 2 anyway, running out of juice. Did I buff that one? I buffed that one. Alright, and then we can get it closer standing this way. I mean, if you're going to do that, why don't you just put it here and save the DU? You know? I mean, I think we would have to do a like wave 400 or wave 500 start to really judge this. Because this is just, like I said, it's not a wall at all. It's a support tower that we're just adding in randomly in the back. So I don't feel good about this test at all, y'all. Just saying. Wrong buff beam. And I do think in this situation, it's completely wasted DU. I mean, that's 5 DU. That's another heat cannon. You know? But I'm building it like y'all said to build it, so. And then let's get a siren in for a bubble. Still covering everything. A little sketchy here, but not too bad. So I can probably bring it around, huh? Well, that's covering everything at least. And then what? We'll throw 2 spiders in with the change. And then throw a couple of upgrades on them just to get them a little thicker, since I don't have big boy stats on them. And let's just go with that. I don't want to spend all the DU because I do want them to at least see if anything even makes it near him. I mean, I don't think anything's going to make it near him, to be honest. Oh, siren. Here comes an ogre. Come on up, ogre. Oh, ogre wrecked. I don't do this setup. This is the first time I've ever built this. I wouldn't put any of this here. That would free up an extra flame heat cannon on each lane. Yeah, this is just a bad example. Nothing is going to touch anything. And like I said, this is not using them as a blockade at all. You're not, Sage. But it's unenforced gray area at this point. Alright. Well, I guess let's go another wave and see if anything comes up here at all. Even with the mage, you take a blockade, then you add in a strength drain aura, which is going to be required. Then you add in a buff beam, which is going to be required. Then you add in a mage on top of it. You're talking massive DU for a wall. If you're going to spend all that, slap an ogre down and at least have fun. We're doing blockades right now. We haven't made it to anything else yet. Well, there is no boss. I mean, nothing's going to touch a wall. Shame it doesn't make auras take reduced damage. I mean, why not pull the flamethrowers back and throw 2 walls where the spiders are if you're going to use them in support? Because in this situation, they're just not needed at all. I mean, you would 100% get more benefit out of slapping in slapping in another flamethrower. The only way anything's taking damage right now is from the sirens, because I'm not in overlord mode on a summoner. Maybe we'll have to leave this one up for debate. Well, that's not what we're judging, though, Show, is the thing. This is a endgame full runes tier list. It's not a... You know, everything would be in different categories if you compared early game to late game. Thanks for following there, Kigo. Appreciate it. Well, I mean, then it'll just get overrun. Well, I mean, that's the thing. This situation, you wouldn't use wall builds. I thought something would make it there. I didn't think it was going to be that much of a just absolute face roll. All right, so let's go back over to the list here. So where do you guys want it? I mean, remember, this is judging end game full runes. Well, I mean, I don't think it's F tier by any means. I don't think it's A tier, though. Well, we don't have a D. I figured we'd skip D and go right to F. I think B is probably, B or C is probably the safest point. It's healthier as a blockade than the root. If you're using it as utility, then you would have to use the root's utility too, and then they'd both go up here. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So I think it is better than the root. Just from health scaling alone, I think it's better than the root. Well, yeah, but that's... Anytime you say but if you use it with this, then you're completely referring to a different tier list. So no buts, you're using it with this. The only thing you're using here is a fusion buff beam and a strength drain aura. That's it. The ensnare is an added bonus to slow him down. To slow down the attack speed. Everybody happy with B tier on that one? I think that's pretty safe. The ogre... Man, the ogre is so good. For memes, it goes up here. You know what I'm saying? But where does it really fall for anything else? It's the most expensive wall. With that in mind, it's also the strongest wall. As far as health goes. Let's grab one here. Here, I got Philomancer right here. So with 10,000 health, I mean, it starts off tier 1 at a million health. Then you add the rune into it. I'm gonna have to switch to another hero to keep these. 27 million damage. The DPS output of it is not terrible by itself. 3 mil per AoE slap. It's got 1 million health. Now the downside to it is its aggro is crappy. So once again, it's big, so it does do a good job blocking. But if you leave a space, enemies will run past. Let's see another rune toss. 27 million. That's a fatty bit of damage, you know? But where does it fall? I mean, the bottom line is, does it have the most health? Yup, it's got the most health. It's 5 DU, though. Yeah, no buff beam either. It's 5 DU. But remember, this is a blockade list. It's not a DPS tower list. We could add it into the DPS tower list, to be honest. Because, you know, it is. Let's upgrade it all the way. Or we could even use it. You know what? Let's just do that. Let's use it as a DPS tower. Well, no, this is the only one I have it. Well, we can move the points over. Let's pull these over and put them into power. But then again, now I'm getting sidetracked because we're talking another tier list altogether. Here, we're still at 925,000 health. Throw a buff beam on it. And let's see. See, now it's not doing damage to the dummy for some reason. Something's buggy with it. 210 million. Well, that explosion. Crazy. But anyway, I digress because this is not the DPS tier list. Where does it fall as far as a blockade tier list? Its cost's expensive. The health is nice, but it's completely overkill. And it's got bad aggro. Yeah, I think either B or C. I think the DU cost alone takes it to C, in my opinion. Zach says A or B. What makes you say A or B? Because let's compare apples to apples here and look at an actual Waller Squire. With, what did we have? We had 10,000. 10,000 fort, was it? Let me look again. In fact, let me just throw one down. Let's see. Let's go to 10,000 fort. All right, so we're at 10,000 fort exactly. And we slap that down. Versus a Squire. Ooh, I'm not going to be able to get down to 10,000. The pain of proper gearing. See, we can go to 11.98. Can we get the ogre that high? I don't think we can. No, we can't get him that high. So this is not a true... Well, I could take a piece of gear off, I guess. Let's see, where were we? 11.9. Let's unequip that. Well, what happens when we unequip that? That drops us down too far. We can get them to the same number. Okay, there we go. 9969. So let's get this one down to 9969. All right, 9969. So 9969, it's at 1.021 million. And the Squire is at 686.4. So pretty noticeable health difference with the exact same stat. But 1 DU, 5 DU. And I think that's really a big part of the challenge there. 1 DU versus 5 DU. So is everybody comfortable with it at C? Or would you rather see it somewhere else? Yeah, but that's not really what you can't really compare it like that. We're trying to rank them, not say what will make this the same amount of health, you know? As a wall, C tier. All right, so there we go. Does anybody disagree with this? Does anybody think that something else should be at the same level of the Archer? Well, see, that's the thing. That's the thing, Dr. Richmond, is for fun and memes, it's S tier. For actual, are you ever going to use it? It's F tier. You know? It's cool as hell and it's funny as hell to watch. So, I mean, as far as just memeing and having fun, it would go way up the rags. This is, in my personal opinion, I think the only change that I would make to this list is I think I would do that. I think the Elemental Blockade is so much better than the Spike Blockade because of the AoE. It raises it a full tier above it. But I mean, I'm happy with putting this as the rank 1 A tier, if that's what you guys are happy with. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Everybody happy with this one? Do I hit the save button? Well, because this is a blockade tier list, British, it's not a support tier list. If it was a support tier list, the reflect beam would be S tier. As a blockade, the rune ruins the reflect beam. It no longer reflects, and it takes damage. Plus, damage still passes through. I mean, we'll do support. In fact, we can do support next. And I think reflect beam is right up there. So is everybody pretty happy with that one? Cerberus and Natum seem good. Let's just go ahead and do it. Let's see. Let's save it. All right. Let me see if I can get you guys a URL here for it. Anybody wants to look at it later? That is Blockades right there. That just wrecked all of my windows. All right, so let's go. Let's go back. Thanks so much for following, Arizu. We want to reset. And what do we move on to now? Do we do support? What do you guys think? Support defenses? So remember, this is with runes. So well, since it's support, we would have to say no rune on the reflect because it takes it out of the support category. I mean, we wouldn't even include it. I think we still have to include reflects, but the reflect will say no rune. What else do we have that's support? It's different, Monclesi. One is not really better than the other. They're both different. All right, what else do we have that is support here? We got the Empowering Shrine, Ensnare Aura, Healing Aura. I mean, you could say the Mage is support. Yeah, I think that's the obvious. The Buff Beam just goes right there. We can count that in as a support with the rune. We can count this in as support with the slow. Now, this one would also be in the damage category. We got gas traps. We got roots. We got a lot in this category. We got the siren. We got the spider. Do we include the spider? I think we got to include the spider. We got the strength drain aura. That's the oh, wrong one. There we go. Explosive, you could say, is support as well for the rune. Absolutely. Now, some of these I think are instant S tier. I think the Ensnare Aura is S tier. I think the Gas Trap is S tier. I think the Spider is S tier. I think you could argue any of these others. Does everybody agree with that? Oh yeah, Enrage. Where's Enrage? Enrage is support. Theoden with the sub, 50 months. And Sludge, do you include Sludge Launchers as support, though? I mean, I guess you could. It is support to an extent. See, the Strength Drain Aura is arguable, though. The rune is really good for it, but it's also not that much damage when you look at it compared to, like, say, an Electric Aura. I don't think it's S tier. I do think it's A tier. Well, let's just talk about the Strength Drain Aura first. The Gas Trap is an instant counter to Sharken. It's not a slow, it's a stun. It is without question S tier. And it's usable in every map. Oh, Protons. Good call. Forgot about Protons. PDT has blind. Yeah, I guess we can add that. Here, I'll just go ahead and put that here. Here's the deal. Remember, we're talking... Okay, we don't have a rune on the Reflect Beam. Yeah, the shrooms have enraged too. Jesus Christ, this list is growing. Where's the shrooms? Well, we can just put that there as well. The reflect beam, we're not talking with a rune because it takes it out of the support category. However, it's so good as a reflect beam. I think it goes S tier as well. And then you could say the same for the siren. Does the extra cost make the siren A tier? Or is it S tier as well? The thing is one of the things with support is you would have to also look at, is it something you're going to want to use in almost every map? I think reflect beams you could really use on just about every map. I think it's very arguable. In fact, I would put the siren at the top of A tier. If you're not going to go S, I think it would go at the top of A tier. I mean, how do you even rank these in order? You think the siren is above ensnare? See, I can't picture a single map in the game that I would ever want to play without an ensnarer, is the thing. I can't think of a single map that I would want to not use an ensnarer on. Yeah, but we're not talking about trying to do speedruns, Pro Ace. We're talking about overall effectiveness at endgame with runes. If we want to do a speedrun tier list, then we have to do a whole different tier list. This is support defenses, standard end gameplay with runes. Well, we'll get back to the shrooms. I just threw them there for now. No, it doesn't slow you down. If anyone here thinks the ensnare doesn't belong at the top of the list, I think you should reevaluate your life. Come on. I mean, come on, man. Does anybody do any maps when they're not speedrunning that they don't use an ensnare RO on? I mean, I would be shocked if literally anyone is doing that. Well, I mean, you run Bazaar without auras. But, I mean, that's like a one out. I mean, if you guys don't think it belongs there, I'll move it. But I gotta say, I strongly disagree. In fact, I would debatably put it there, but I think that's too big of a statement. Yeah, overclock, ensnare, and some sort of reflect in every map. I think the question here is, does this go to S tier, or is it the top of A tier? Yeah, you could move the gas trap all the way to the end, for sure, just because you're not always going to need it. I guess you could even take it there. I think as far as being a direct counter to an enemy, the Sharkin, it makes it really good. But I think I would move it to the top. See, the thing with the Siren, remember this is judging support, is it's also debuffing the enemies, which is so huge. So do you move the reflect down or do you move the siren up is the question. I mean, I am more than happy with putting the siren in the S tier. I think it's badass. The only reason I even said A tier, I think, was because of its DU cost. I mean, yeah, every map, once again, it comes down to an every map situation. Every map, you're going to have some type of reflect in. Spiders you could bring down, because spiders, that's true. Although it would benefit every single map that you play, you're not necessarily going to use them on every map. So I think that's pretty fair too. Let's see. Let's get through the rest of these before we make any more changes. Empowering Aura. I think it's a solid C. I think for what it does, it's perfect. But it's going to be like, do you use it outside of boss maps? I mean, it probably wouldn't really be necessary, or would almost even be a waste of DU outside of boss maps. But what about overall is the thing. Remember, we're not basing it off of one individual situation. One individual niche use, you could argue every single thing here. I gotta say, I personally only use it in about half of the boss maps. In some cases, I would rather have that 3DU for something else. Although I think it does what it's supposed to do perfectly, it's not something that's going to get everyday usage. So I think, I mean, is everybody pretty content with the C? Looks like Mildly Annoyed Cloud, Cerberus is all good with the C. Uzar says, yeah. Well, why would you make it an F? It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's better than Darkness. It's better than Enrage. Enrage is one situational usage in the entire game. Well, that's not what we're doing, though, is the thing. We're judging its overall effectiveness. Speedruns have zero factoring in this entire live stream. I'm not going to do anything at all involving speedruns. You guys know me well enough to know that's not really what I give a shit about. So, zero impact on anything at all. I think C's good, so we'll just move on. Healing Aura. It's the same category, in my opinion. It's something that does exactly what it's supposed to do, but you're never going to use it. I think that one goes to a C. What do you guys think? Does it belong higher, lower? Well, what makes it F tier, though, Pro Ace, is the thing. Like, for it to be F tier, it would have to not do what it's supposed to do. You know? Yeah, but none of that is in the calculation. We don't have any accessories listed down here. We're judging and making a list of the towers, not with no buts, once again. So it's not but, you can use this. It's, does it do its job? Does it do what it's intended to do? And the only, if based off of doing what it's intended to do, it should be S tier. But when you factor in, is it something you're going to want to use on most maps? That's where it goes down to the shitter. I don't think it's F tier. I really don't. Well, because that includes the butts, Pro Ace. I'm not including the butts. There isn't really a situation where you'd want to use Healing Aura? Yeah, you'd want to use it anytime you got 2 DU left over on a boss map. I mean, why would you not? It's a benefit, you know? Anytime that you're taking damage and you want to be tankier and you're not playing on a Squire or a Rogue, it's going to give you a benefit. All right, let's move on to the rune for the wall. No, the healing will heal a ton. It heals an absolute ton. If you don't use it, don't vote. because you don't know. And 30% rift armor, because remember, end game. So rifted and ruined. Anyway, let's move on. I think everybody's pretty content with that at C tier. Let's go to the walls. Where do you put this? I mean, I personally can't see it going any higher than that. As far as overall general use, is there a niche use that you can use it if your defenses aren't strong enough to push in survival? Absolutely. But that's not what this tier list is about. Where does it go, though? Does it go B, C? I mean, I can't see it being higher, anything higher than B. C or F? I mean, I think it would be usable. F means you would never want to do it, in my opinion. These we're not going to leave here. We're going to discuss them. I just threw them there for funds, because I think they're both trash. But you would probably say B. Yeah, it's another HP pool for defenses, but is it saving your build? All walls are C, really? I think that's true. I think that's probably true. Yeah, it's getting hot as shit in here. I might turn my AC on. Let's see how loud it's going to be. Let me turn my AC on real quick, y'all. If it's too loud, I'll turn it back off after a few minutes. All right, how irritating is that? Can you hear it really bad when I'm talking? It's hotter than shit today. It's so weird. Like tomorrow, it's supposed to be cold. All you hear is the music. I use a noise gate, so you should only hear it when I'm talking, but there might be a little buzz in the background. All right, cool. All right, let's move on. The Obelisk. Now remember, this is support tier, not damage. So just off of its debuff that it puts out, where does it go? Pro Ace says B tier. 144p. Need to get you some better interwebs there, Maurice. Good lord, man. Or just change it hit the little gear and change it. I've used it, but here's the problem I've faced. Just with the Ensnare aura and the root, you get to the slow cap. So the Obelisk doesn't do anything then. High C tier? Like in the front of the list, maybe? That's the problem. See, the problem is I always use an Ensnare, and then I quite frequently will use the roots. And using the Ensnare and their roots, you are at the movement, the slow cap. So the Obelisk doesn't do anything then. Or it's not noticeable, at least. It's erratic with targeting. That's another issue with it, is its targeting does feel a little wonk. Seems like everybody's pretty good with C tier on that one. Oop, what did I do? No, I moved it down. I'm gonna put it back up here. The roots as support, I would have to agree. I mean, it's real hard not to put it at S tier. But I mean, I could see it going in A tier. But what do you guys think? Here's the deal with the roots. It's 1 DU, its slow stacks with the ensnare aura, and it makes mobs just really hit the brakes. Like, you notice it, you see it. You know, without actually seeing the number change up and down on the enemy's movement speed, you see it slow down. I would agree. I mean, I think it's right up there too. Now, I would put it at the lower end of S tier just because it's usage. Like, you're not going to have to use it every time. But I can say for my personal use, it's good enough where I've got a Warden that's specifically into tower range with a fused root just for that. And when you upgrade it with the crazy range stat, it covers like so much area. It's crazy. I can show you the roots. Let's pop over and take a look at them here. Let's see. We'll grab let's grab Max. So this is who, like, if I'm using roots as utility to add them in, this is who I use. So I've got 14,000 range. A little bit, I got a little carried away. I'm not going to lie. I realize this. 14k range. But where you really notice it is when you upgrade. When you have a buff beam. Oops, that's not a EV at all, is it? I mean, that is a big area for 1 DU to be a slow. Because remember, the buff beam would be on whatever damaging defenses you have back here anyway, and the root doesn't penalize for using... Yeah, it gets to the exact same size of your auras. Absolutely. But, yeah, it covers a big-ass range. Plus, you know, it also has the last resort thing. Although it is a shitty blockade, it's still a blockade. So as a support thing, if you did have one stray ogre or whatever push up, you do have something else there to be destroyed. It changes throughout the game, Theon. Early game, proton beams, wisps are all super, super powerful. It's still not bad, though, even at level 1. Because remember, what it's doing is it's adding in that last resort slow. So you've got your slow in. But even at tier 1 with those stats, it's almost as big as my ensnare aura. But so the enemy gets slowed, and then it hits the brakes when it hits both slows together. You guys think A? In DD2, it's based off of what chaos tier you're playing. Counter the enemies that are present. DD2 has not much real strategy in it. So where does it go? Does it belong at the top of A tier? Does it belong at the bottom of S tier? Does it belong somewhere else altogether? Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's not as good as an ensnare on its own. You think it goes roots, spider, gas, strength drain? I think that I would agree with that. Top of A or bottom of S. So let's just leave it there for now and we'll move on. Okay, explosive trap. As a support defense, I mean, I think I would have to put it here. It's a really awesome addition, but it's an awesome addition because of the damage output you get out of it. The support is just an added benefit on the side, back at a wall or a minions or whatever. What do you all think? For those that don't know, that are curious, the rune for the explosive trap is shell shocked. Enemies are slowed by 30% and deal 30% reduced damage for 2 seconds. So it's got a slow and a damage reduction. Well, that's the thing, is don't factor in the damage output, Francisco. We're just looking at just the support benefit, you know? So it's a 30% slow and 30% reduced damage. Well, I mean, I got a hard time putting most things in F tier because I don't think it's the worst thing in the game. To go in the F tier, I would have to say it would be the worst in category. But I feel pretty comfortable with putting it at C tier. Well, see, the benefit here is you get a combo deal. It's not as good as an ensnare, it's not as good as a strength drain aura, but it does both of those functions. I mean, really, to be honest, I think it would go at the top of C, personally. Or B. It has so many other benefits, but of course we can't bring those other benefits into consideration. All right. So everybody happy with C? Cole would say B. We have nothing in B tier yet. So you could put it here and it would still be the bottom of B. Or you could put it here and it would be the top of C. Everybody happy with the top of C tier? You could see B as well. But where does it go? Does it go in B or does it go in C? I agree that I don't think it's on par with this stuff. But I do think it's better than everything here. B for the memes. As a support, C. Yeah, that's true. I use it on more maps for its support than I do any of these items. I would agree with that for myself as well. All right, let's move on. Enrage. Where does the Enrage aura go? The Enrage aura is incredibly good at what it does, but it only does it one place in the entire game. And that's super high survival. I mean, does it go to the low end of C or is it F? I mean, it is very, very good at what it does. But what it does is only useful in one little niche use in the game. I mean, this is one that I probably couldn't really argue saying it's F tier. On the same note, I wouldn't argue either saying it's the very bottom of C tier. But see, that's the other thing. Let's go ahead and talk about the Shroomies. We don't have a D tier Ren. Because no matter what, the Shrooms are not as good as the Enrage. I personally think they go here just because of their situational usage. Now, once again, as far as memes, Shrooms go up top, but this isn't the meme tier list. And Shrooms, in my opinion, are not as good as an Enrage aura. Yeah, but this is an end game comparison, Angus. Once you gear past that point, you no longer use it. It's if you don't have enough gear to clear the content, like as in high survival, then it's very useful. But this is in-game gear full runed comparison. That's the other thing too, is What does the Enrager have? Does the Enrager has a rune, doesn't it? Or does it not have? Yeah, it's got a rune. Berserker, that's right. See, I don't even have that rune equipped on my general use Aura guy. I took Rejuvenating Aura over it. Enrage Aura increases the damage enraged enemies deal by 150%. That actually hurts it, in my opinion. That hurts it. Because you don't want those enemies doing more damage. You want them standing there blocking up the lane, you know? I don't know. I think they both go in F tier. I do think that the Enrage is better than the Shrooms. But I do think that they go in F tier. All right, let's move on to Sludge Launchers. Sludge Launchers is another one that's going to be real tough to rank very high. Even though in the DPS category, I think Sludge Launchers are going to do pretty damn well. In the support category, a pool of sludge at hit location, a 40% slow, and 40% tower damage to enemies within. Now, the cooldown is a little misleading because it lasts for 5 seconds as well. So it's always there. Like, the pool is constant. It almost never goes away. See, it instantly pops back. So the 5 seconds is a big turnoff for a lot of people, but realize that it also lasts 5 seconds. I agree. I think the Sludge Launcher slow is better than the Obelisk. But where does it go? I don't think it goes F tier. I think it would go lower in the C tier ranking. I don't think these are in the right order either. Does the Obelisk go at the top? I mean, I think it would go there as support. Now, this is the support category, though, Uzar. This is not the DPS category. You think as support, it's a B tier? B behind explosive? I mean, I could see that. Because remember, we can't throw butts in. Well, it's got 100% uptime, Angus, so have it, you know, it proccing every 5 seconds. Once again, it's 100% uptime. All characters are good for Chaos 10. If you got the right gear, if you got the right shards and the mods, you win Chaos 10. The character doesn't matter. All right. Well, I mean, I'm content with that, leaving it as a B tier. It's a constant slow and damage buff area. This is true. I do think it's better than all of this stuff. All of the C tier stuff. All right, the Proton Beam. Here's the deal with the Proton Beam, y'all. And for those of you who have tested the Proton Beam rune, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. If there were no Jinn in a map, they would be S tier all day long. But there are Jinn. So where do you put them? You can put them really far back in your build. They also do not stun ogres. Now, they will stun all the mobs in front of ogres, making a roadblock. That's not owls. That's the blockade. This is the support tier list. Might as well, we'll go to DPS next. I mean, as much as I love protons, I have to agree. I think just because Jhin are in every instance of the game, Nightmare and on, it makes them F tier. I really think it does. And it's crazy too, is the effectiveness is so good with that shock, but it's just not usable because the Jhin just are going to get sucky on it every time. Yeah, we talked about Mage. I don't know why I didn't bring the Mage up. This is support with runes, so the Mage definitely counts. Oop, that's not a Mage at all, is it? I think they go F tier, but where do they go? Are they better than Enrage Auras? Probably not. I think it goes like that. All right, now you got the Poison Dart Tower. The rune for this one is a chance on hit. It's a chance, right? It's not a guarantee. I don't think, right? Enemies hit by the poison. Oh, it's 70%. It's a pretty high chance. 70% with Godly. But the darkness effect from being blinded is crazy effective, but also crazy niche. Like, you would have to go out of your way to build with him. Where do you guys think they belong? Do they go in the F tier? They used to be. They're not anymore because we abused it. That was the early in DDA's life. That was the auto win button for every map. Is you throw a darkness trap at the wall and ogres get blinded, and just remember what blinded means in DDA. Blinded doesn't mean they're blinded. Blinded means they lose their current target, which in a situation where we abused it, you would put walls in the lane with a darkness trap. The enemies, the enemy that's approaching, like an ogre, its current target is the blockade, and then the darkness trap goes off. It makes the ogre lose its current target. So the blockade no longer exists as far as the ogre is concerned. So then the ogre is aggro to a tower or your core or whatever is behind, but it can't get past the blockade. So it sits there and butts its head against it. Well, remember, this is just support, Shro. I would have a real hard time placing it C tier, I think. Maybe at the very bottom of C tier. Blinded and Darkness is something, I mean, how many builds have you seen people use with it? It is usable, and it works. But is it something that everyone actually uses? I mean, I personally would have to say it would go at the very bottom there, or somewhere in F tier. I mean, to be honest with you, I am more likely to use the stun from a proton beam than I am to use the darkness from a PDT. For me personally. But what do you all think? Where does it belong? Cyberfi says it's C or B. There's no way it's B. I would have to agree with B. I think it would be at the very bottom of C or somewhere in F. Yeah, it's a great game there, Jose. C minus. Not really going to go into that much. I mean, I'll go in and test things, but I'm not going to run the boss map. That would eat up 20 minutes. The question is, where does it go? Does it go to C? Does it go to F? I mean, in this situation, you have to compare. And I personally would use the proton beam shock before I would use the darkness or the blind from the PDT. So I personally think it belongs below the proton beam. Which, you know, to be honest, I think the proton beam belongs above these two. In my opinion, anyway. I'm assuming PDTs would work if you changed their targeting to strong. So where's it go, y'all? Bottom of C or top of F or even second of F? I personally think it goes right here. But it's not about me. What do y'all think? You think it goes here? Second and F? Godzilla agrees. Alright, F it is. Sorry, PDT. Such a cool defense, too. But we're not judging cool factor. Alright, and then the mage. Where do you put the mage? Remember, this is support with runes. So, what's the benefit? Well, you got, with the rune, it will heal defenses in the area. You also got the benefit, even though this is not the DPS category, you got the benefit of having a support defense that's going to add DPS, single target damage, that you can select its targeting for. My initial thought is that it goes at the top of C. Or maybe even here. I would use it over any of this stuff, probably. And I would probably, for support, I would use it over a sludge launcher. Yeah, it doesn't work on traps or auras. That would be kick-ass. Yeah, it's got to be a actual placeable defense. Low C or even F. Obelisk is greater than Mage Heal. I agree. What about compared to this other stuff, though? That's the problem I personally feel like. I feel like the heal feels a little bit unreliable. No, it heals defenses. It just won't heal traps or auras. Or beams. It won't... Well, Proton Beam wouldn't need to be healed. It won't heal up an aura or a trap or whatever. You think the Obelisk would move up to last place in B? I mean, I think that's pretty fair. Anybody else disagree or agree? Yeah, it heals. Well, you got to look at the rune. Remember, we're talking with runes. So when you look at the rune, the rune is not being used. Can also heal nearby physical defenses. What it means by physical defenses is something placeable. Like, it won't heal a trap or an aura, but it will heal a harpoon or a fireball or whatever. It'll heal something that's like a physical defense you place there. That's the only thing that makes it good. Archers, now if archers didn't heal themselves, then mages would be definitely very needed in the archer wall world. Everybody feel good about that? Top of C? Oh man, if it healed thunder spikes, that would be so incredible. You think that's good? All right, we'll save it. This one is support defenses with runes. Save. Let me get you guys a URL here real quick. In case anybody wants to come back and look at it later. There is the support list. And see if I can get back to where I was. Maybe. Too many buttons to press. I should have hotkeyed all this stuff before I started the stream. Missed opportunity. It may heal spinning blades. I've never tested that. But the thing is spinning blades, you would want to put those up front with the rune. But now we move on. And this is when the real shit hits the fan, y'all. And that is damaging defenses. Let's get them all up here. Shit, are we going to be able to fit them all? I mean, you can even throw an ogre in there. I don't feel like we should. Should we throw the ogre in? Crap, man, we're not going to be able to fit them all. But yeah, we are. Okay, it adds another row. That's good. Holy crap. What'd I miss? I think that's everything. Or is that the owl or is that the wall? Those icons are so similar. Or here's the wall. So yeah, that's the owl. Protons. I mean, if we include the ogre, we got to include the other walls. So let's just not include the ogre. Even though it is very, very meme-worthy. Oh. My bad. I forgot to swap it. Here we go. Yeah, damage list is with runes. Everything is endgame gear with runes. I'm not going to put the ogre up there, even though it does slap, just because it's kind of a meme thing. And I feel like if you put the ogre up there, you would have to put the other walls up there. Everybody agree with that? Ogre is a must. Well, roots, I mean, yeah, roots do damage too. Now, these have to be hit to do damage, so I'm not going to throw these other walls in. Even though they do incredible damage, they have to get slapped. We're talking about stuff that does damage on its own. So I think first let's just do the obvious. It's debatable whether that one goes S or A, because it's not every map usage. Let's leave it down here. What else is instant S tier? Harpoons. Yeah, how the hell did I miss the harpoons? Blossom. Agree. Harpoons, Blossom, DST, and Owls. I think Sludge Launcher and Wisp, personally, I don't think they go to S tier. I think they go to A tier. The DST is arguable with that too, because the DST really shines when you've got an apprentice buffing it. If you don't have an apprentice buffing it, I think it goes here. I think the electric aura is S tier, and it's something usable on every map. For those of you who disagree with that, just watch the live streams where my builds have failed and the electric aura held the lane. Oh, do I have Enrage up there? Or no, I don't have Enrage up there. Yeah, Enrage, I would not consider that. The Sniper Cam DST has got one massive thing over Sniper Cannons, and that is it doesn't shoot through walls. I think that's pretty fair. I think that I agree with that order. You know what? We could even move this down. Yeah, the strength drain aura we can throw in because it's ruined. I mean, I'll go ahead and throw that in down here. Just kidding, y'all. Just kidding. Don't throw a fit. All right, now do we have any automatic F tier stuff? Remember, this is damage. DPS. Oh, the electric aura, I am a firm believer, and I do use an electric aura on every single map. So, I mean, I'm an electric aura kind of guy. So you're not going to get any complaints out of me moving that up. I moved that down just because I think people will complain about it. But let's move along. We can change this stuff as we go, if anybody disagrees with anything here. Mages. Mages do decent damage, but they're single target. If that fireball exploded, I think it would add so much to mages. And remember, we're not basing it off of its support. We're basing it off of its damage. Or that's an archer. I get those two icons confused all the time. When I see the mage, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Archers, same thing. They're cheap, they're 2DU, they're single target damage. You can change what they're targeting. I think as damage, though, I mean, it would have to be C or F. I think C's a fair place to put them right now. Sniper cannons. What do you guys think about snipers? Sniper cannons hit like a truck. The problem is they don't shoot through walls. So it's like kind of like a budget DST. That's just a budget DST. So I think it has to go below DST. And I mean, for my personal opinion, I think it would go in C tier. Oh, that's bowling ball. That's a sniper cannon, or no? All right, snipers. God dang it. Yeah, but that's not where, we're end game. Lycan King gear or higher with full runes. It's a single target defense that's more expensive than an archer. It does do a lot more damage. But where does it go? You think C-? I think it does hit hard. And it's got crazy range. But it doesn't shoot through walls. You say B? So we got two people on Twitch. I should have put the Twitch chat on the screen so you guys could all see it. Two people on Twitch are saying F+, C-. Well, I mean, the damage is huge. I don't know if I have one set up right now, to be honest. I mean, we can throw one together real quick. Let me see. Do I even have one set up? You got clothes on, mister? Yeah, he's got some clothes on. Got accessories. The damage is good. And the range is absurd. So, I mean, if you compare them like you would be using them in a map. Figure you'd probably put two of them on, right? Oops, god dang it. I sold it. The rune for the sniper allows it to pierce one additional enemy. and it scales damage by 100%. What exactly does that mean? Let's look at it here real quick. Alright, so it's misleading. It's not actually scaling the damage, it's just not having any damage fall off, is what that means. The damage isn't going up, though. It hits hard, it's got crazy range. I mean, look at the range on it. 127 meters. Good lord. So, where does it go, y'all? Where does it go? Is C the right place for it? Ren says a B minus. Uzar says a B. I think you guys are being generous, but... Well, that's not the question. The question is, could you use this defense? I think C tier is right as well. Anybody else? C plus? Alright, looks like we're getting a lot of C's. So we'll put it on the top side. Alright, now we got bowling balls. Bowling balls are the hardest hitting defense in the entire game. That has such ridiculous situational usage. It's absurd. Yeah, if we get too many C's, we can move some stuff around. We haven't put in anything in F tier yet. Well, in one or two lanes in the entire game, they are without question S tier. But in the majority of the game, they're not even usable. They won't go upstairs, etc. But it is the hardest hitting defense in the game. With runes. Ren says F. It's definitely not F. You can't say it's the hardest hitting defense in the game and then throw it in F. I think that's wrong. I think that's a little wrong there, Red. I think for me the question is does it go, where does it fall in C tier? Forgive me, choking to death. Remember, y'all, we're talking about DPS, and we haven't gotten to things like runes or strength radars yet. The bowling ball is better than those in a DPS situation. Let's just leave it there for now, and we'll debate later. All right, explosive traps. The rune for this one just gives it support benefits, so the rune is not adding anything. Bowling balls are expensive too. The rune's not adding anything as far as damage goes. However, if you ask the question of, is it something you use often? I use them in not every map, but in almost every map, personally. They're extremely powerful. AoE coverage. Late game is where they shine, there, Ren. When you get there, I'll show you. Ah! I'm just kidding, Ren. I'm just kidding. I mean, I use them in literally almost every map. Ren can pretend he's in endgame only once. Sorry, Ren, sorry. Pick on the old guy. You end game often? This is true. Don't we all? And I think it's even arguable where they go in A tier. I mean, although I do love DSTs and I think they're really, really good. You think it's the top of B tier? Do you use more explosive traps than you do DSTs? I personally do. I think it's A as well. I think it goes above DSTs, to be honest. I mean, that one I think can be pretty easily disputed. Well, that's the thing. The DST is, you use them situationally. But remember, the reason we're all using DSTs situationally now is because most players spam the shit out of them for 2 years. And they're tired of them. DSTs are very, very good. I don't think they're S tier. But I do think they're a solid A tier. Yeah, they can be used on every map with no problem. And then on that note, so can explosive traps. But where do you rank them? I think it definitely belongs A. All right, let's go to the Fireball Tower. The thing that makes the Fireball Tower with the rune really, really good also nerfs it into the ground. That's fair too, Pro Ace. The DST sound effects can get pretty over the top. It's high damage, but it's single target damage. And in very few, if you're going to compare it, I don't think it's F tier at all. I think that's a little much. But with it being single target damage with the rune, you're going to have to compare it to the damage output that you would get out of other single target defenses like the Beaming Blossom. And it doesn't touch the Beaming Blossom. Or the DST. Oh, it's crazy damage. It's what, 500% or whatever? I mean, the damage is huge. There's no doubt. Let me see if I got any set up. I just moved a bunch of gear around with the Supreme stuff, but let's see. We got, is he wearing any pants? He got no pants on. That is what? That's minor, or militia. Or no, it's militia. Do I have a militia set I can slap on him? Not a fine-tuned set, obviously. Just slap that on there. I think that's good enough just to show the benefit. Oh, wow. That's not shit. Oh, it's because the gear's not upgraded. Oop. No power. What the hell? Yeah, let's not do that. Let's throw that on instead. I mean, the damage is definitely fat. And then the rune here, it's 800%, not 500%. 8 times damage, but it makes it a single target defense. But when you look at the, you look at the damage output of it, it's pretty enormous. Compare it just the way we've been comparing everything else. I mean, that's not upgraded yet, y'all. It does a lot of damage. But it is single target. It's a 4DU single target defense that hits like a truck and doesn't shoot through walls. So, I mean, it's definitely got value. You know? But it boils down to single target defense. If it kept that AoE explosion, this would be one of the most broken defenses in the game. But since it's true single target now, it takes so much of that away. But the question comes down to, where does it belong on the tier list? I mean, I personally think it's a B. I'm going to use a fireball tower over a sniper cannon, personally. I mean, they hit like a truck, but they're super situational. They will collide, so they'll collide with terrain. They've got no wall hacks at all. I think it's a solid B tier. Looks like most people are agreeing. So let's move on to the Holy Cannon. Now, the Holy Cannon is in a similar situation. It hits really hard. However, it's got one huge benefit over a fireball tower. Besides the spreading. Because remember that we're talking runed. So it does spread its dot around. But it's got a big benefit that, in my opinion, every single projectile defense in the game should have. And that is, it has that no clipping like a harpoon has. So, for example... Oh, it's incredibly powerful, Niftig. It burns maps. For example, if you go... I don't think there's any gear on this one, huh? Nope. We can get the example in anyway. If you put it... it's not going to reach with no gear. Here, let's give it some rage. If you put it down where there's something in the way, where like a flame burst tower would clip. Oh, too close still. Or a fireball tower, pardon me. Still too close. Holy shit. There we go. It's got the anti-clipping, so it won't catch the projectile. It's going to fire another one in like 8 minutes because I don't have any gear. It won't, where a fireball tower, the projectile would blow up. This will shoot through it. So if it can target an enemy, it's gonna hit that enemy. They're very strong. They're usable in every map in the game. But where do they fall on the tier list? I guess we should look at them with gear, huh? I as well. I would use a Holy Cannon. I mean, that, in my opinion, those aren't even in the same conversation. A Holy Cannon is so many times more powerful than the Obelisk. Like, many times. I think it's safe to say, I think B tier, or either low A tier or high B tier is the place for them, personally. But what do you guys think? High B or low A? It is incredibly good. It's incredibly good, the Shro. There's no doubt. See, a lot of people haven't used it yet. It is very good. High B. Aiden and Conrad says high B. A few people say high A. Godzilla says lower A. I mean, I could see it in either place. I would probably use a DST over the Holy Cannon, but I do think I would use the Holy Cannon over the Fireball. So, I mean, either here or here. We still got a lot of defenses to go, too. Everybody good with leaving it right there for now? What do you guys think? Leave it at the top of B? Leave it at B for now. All right, so let's move on to the LT. I mean, this one arguably is, in my personal opinion, is either at the top of A tier or at the bottom of S tier. It is so good. That explosion hits so hard. It's crazy what it hit. I mean, it just smacks. Do I have him geared? I still haven't fully geared everybody since I've been leveling. It's like we got gear on this guy. Got my stuff all wonked. I'm just going to throw it here for now. But that rune slaps, man. Fires off. It deals 1,500% of tower damage to all enemies within range. It's so good. I mean, I don't think this is as good as Owls or as good as a PDS. But it is so good, you know? See, it's hard to get the good example here in Tavern because it goes through the full channel. But watch those dummies up top. 1.2 million damage at tier 1 with no buff beam. And that's to everything in the area, just for an idea of that. Every mob in that area gets hit for that much damage. That's a big ass area. The only time it feels like they really struggle at all is if you're on a map that's got super duper heavy ogres. I think, personally, I do think that belongs in S tier. I really do. I think it belongs at the bottom of S tier. Or maybe even above an Electric-Aura. I do think that that one deserves the S tier tag. We can decide the exact placement on these here once we get to it. All right, the Magic Missile. Y'all, the rune for the Magic Missile makes it really, really good. It definitely, like, I know a lot of people were going to say F tier on this. The rune for the Magic Missile takes it way up from there. I mean, in fact, I personally would probably put it... Well, this is how I would have it. Like that. In that order. It's 2 DU. The range is incredible. The damage is decent. I'm sure I've got a Magic Missile set up. Or we can do it on the same character. Yeah, we can just do it on the same character. The rune giving it the bounce is so, so good. And it bounces a long way. We're not going to be able to get a full view of it in the tavern. But it does bounce a long, long way. It's 2 DU. Get an idea what it looks like on a buff beam. It's not like crazy over-the-top damage, but it is hitting multiple targets. How many targets is that limited to? Oops, wrong hero. Does it say on the rune? 5 targets. I don't think I've ever seen it hit 5 targets. Yeah, magic missiles on air duty are incredible. And then a lot of times you'll even see them bounce from the air mobs down to the ground mobs. Yup, 360 degree targeting. Only 2 DU. But where does it fall on the list? Where does it fall? Is it the top of C? Is it the bottom of B? I think it's, you could argue either of those slots personally. In fact, I mean, I like the Archer more. That's why I keep moving it on. that's a fair place for it. It's incredibly good when you're going to use it. The sad thing is it's another one of those towers that's mainly used for memes. Magic missiles only on Castle Armory? That'd be a tough one. You can use any hero. The Huntress is very good. One of the top DPS in the game. But you can kill the Demon Lord with any boss. It's more about knowing the mechanic than it is than anything else. Alright, let's move on to the Obelisk. Now remember, this is damaging defenses. So where does it go in the damaging defenses category? Let me see if I've got an Obelisk set up. I probably don't. Let me see. Are you set up? Oh, it is set up. Let's give it the full enchilada. So we're giving it a fair test. $4 million damage a tick, 4 times a second. It does get the AoE, with the rune. So, I mean, we're talking, what, 16 million plus DPS? What does the AoE damage look like? I don't think it's A tier at all. Where the hell were you? Right here. Is it 100% damage or is there fall off? It looks like it's full damage, so there's no fall off. It's 4 DU. I mean, where does it fall? Is it better than an archer? Is it better than a sniper? I think it's better than a bowling ball, maybe, as far as effectiveness. What do you guys think? Should it go higher than that? It's not even remotely close in DPS comparison to a Flame Burst or a Fireball Tower Harrison. This is focusing on all damage. It's not even remotely in the same conversation. It's not even close. I think that's a good spot for him. Let's move on to Infernos. Above Sniper Cannon? That's fair. Where do Infernos go? See, here's the deal with Infernos. Unless you're doing a spawn camp build, are you ever going to use Infernos? You think it's F? Well, remember, we're going to have things in here like the damage from a root. Yeah, it's more DU and lower damage than Explosive Trap. It's definitely not on par with an Explosive Trap. I agree there 100%. Every hero is basically the same. For damaging defenses, you prioritize power and then get power, range, and rate on every piece. I mean, I wouldn't argue with that one, Godzilla. It could be the top of C tier. But where does Inferno go? Does Inferno go F? I don't know if it goes F. I wouldn't put it above any of this stuff. I wouldn't put it above archers. I wouldn't put it above sniper cannons. I would probably put it above bowling balls. Well, it's not just DPS, but DPS in its effective usage, basically. I mean, I like it right there. I would probably be more likely to use it over a bowling ball. The Inferno does not have a rune yet, does it? I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Let's see. No rune. Or yeah, it does. Blazing Fire. Applies a 200% damage dot every second for 3 seconds. Is that double damage, or is that another misleading thing? Let's look at it real quick. Yeah, it's double damage. So, I mean, the rune gives it a lot of value. It doesn't last like it says it does. It looks like we're getting... What is this, 0.5? Okay, this is 0.5. So, every 2 ticks... It basically doubles the DPS output. Thanks for following there, Neritus. So, I mean, it is pretty good with the rune, but where does it fall on the tier list? I think that's a safe place for it. I mean, maybe even move it up. Where does it go in C? Does everyone agree on C tier? And then where does it go in C tier? Well, yeah, there's no comparison to explosive traps. I think everyone agrees with that. Explosive is less DU and does more damage. Actually, it doesn't do more damage if you count the rune in, does it? I do think it's not in the same ballpark as an explosive trap as far as effective usage. Ren with the gift sub. Thank you so much. Does anybody disagree with this placement? We can always move it later. Should it go over here? C4. Looks about right. All right, the mage. Let's look at the damage output of the mage. Because remember, this is talking about damage. I'm sure I don't even have a mage set up. Let me see. I might. Nope. So, let's just throw... This is a DPS character, so we'll have to double the damage output. So take all of these numbers and double them. It's single target damage. That's 4 DU. And is doing... Well, I figure if this was a fuse set, it would be doing 7 million per hit. I think I agree. In a damage, in a DPS or a damage only comparison, I think that the mage goes F. I just don't think it's better than... Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is it better than a bowling ball? In damage output, definitely not. But in effective usage, probably so. I don't know. Is everybody good with leaving that there for now? In F tier? Yeah, for sure. All right. RIP. All right, PDTs. The rune doesn't give any damage benefit. But where does it fall? The damage output of the PDTs is not terrible. Let's see, do I even have PDTs set up? Probably. Oh, it looks like I do have some armor on them. Yeah, I got a old set of gear. Where does it fall? See, the thing the PDT has is it's got all those darts. It's multiple darts. It's pretty good damage, y'all. Is that 4 darts hitting? It's 3. 3 projectiles. It's got obvious problems. But it does do decent damage output. So where do you put it when you're looking at this? I think it's better than an obelisk. And we got the obelisk at the top of C tier. I mean, I think it's better than a magic missile. Is it better than a fireball? Like right around magic missile? Looks like most people are agreeing with that one. Right around lower end of B tier. Remember, we can always move these around wherever. Alright, the Slice and Dice. Now, here's the deal, y'all. The Slice and Dice is an absolute beast with the rune, and we're talking about the rune. But it comes back around to that situational usage. And in every case in the game, since this is an end game comparison, there is always going to be Jhin. And Jhin are going to vacuum cleaner that bad boy up. Do I still have a Slice and Dice set up currently? I'm not even sure. Let's look, though. Looks like I got an old set of gear on him. Yep. Out of range. We'll have to move our beam up. The damage output of these things is ridiculously good. This is AoE damage, remember. The Jhin will target them, yeah. I'm pretty sure the Jhin will target them. I've had them disappear on me before, and they're not taking damage. So the deal with these is they have no collision. They're no longer recognized as a wall, so enemies don't aggro to them. The downside of these is if they're not strong enough to kill a kobold, when a kobold blows up, maybe the Jhin don't target them. When a kobold blows up, the kobold will do damage to them. And since you're going to be building these as a DPS defense, not as a wall, that's going to make them very squishy. So as long as they're strong enough to kill a kobold, they just do incredibly well. But once again, it comes around to that whole situational usage thing. And where are you actually going to use this? Once again, it's another one where for memes, it could be potentially S tier. But we're not talking about for memes. I think C tier is pretty fair. Anybody else? Where would it go in C tier? The top of C tier? I mean, they are incredibly strong. And I know we're not judging cool factor here, but they got an amazing cool factor too, you know? Got to do a for memes list next. Man, the for memes list would be so different. I think it's better than a bowling ball. I think it could be used more often than a bowling ball. Even though a bowling ball where you can use it, once again, the bowling ball, if you're talking about the down the stairs lane on the temple map, it's S tier, no doubt. But there's so many places throughout all of the game where it's just not good. It won't go upstairs properly. The projectiles will roll off the map all the time. This is straight DPS. This is not an overall list, Odinson. So this is a damaging defense list. We can try to do an overall if there's time at the end of the stream. We broke it into categories. We did by blockades. We got well, I mean, it's situational. Everything would be S tier, right? Or not everything, but most things would be S tier for situational usage. But this is just the damage category. So we did walls, then we did support defenses, and now we're doing DPS. Where do they fall, though? Where do they fall? So yeah, the obelisk as DPS is not very good. But, you know, it's not its sole purpose. Its sole purpose is it's supposed to be a support tower. Is the top of C fair? Are they better than magic missiles? Well, then yours are strong enough to handle the kobolds. The main problem you find with them is the kobolds. When a kobold gets damaged, it's going to light its fuse. And if your slice and dice is not strong enough to kill the kobold before it blows up, they will blow up your slice and dice. And that's the main thing. I think for situationally, it would be better than magic missiles, but I think for general use, I think that's a pretty good spot for it. C1. Any major complaints on that one? Well, no, you wouldn't use it with the bulwark at all, because then you'd have mobs there taking damage. I mean, you could throw it in front of a wall. But the thing is nothing targets it, so it would be kind of a waste of the bulwark. If you were going to do something like that, it would be full memes, and I would go with an ogre. Just for the proper memeage. You don't have to put a wall near it. You just have to have... It just has to be strong enough to kill a kobold before it lights its fuse and blows up. Yeah, this is counting endgame gear with runes, Bob. So in endgame gear with runes, it is very, very good. Can be used on every map in the game. Alright, let's move on to spiders. Now remember, this is not counting in the support benefit. This is counting in as a damaging defense. And they still actually do pretty decent damage. Because of their super long targeting. And look, they're actually hitting the dummy up close now. So what, it's hitting almost 3 times a second for 8.5 million. That's so weird. Why? Or yeah, that's right. Why is it hitting for that hard? Oh, it's because of the debuff. The kicker with the spider is that is AoE. That is not a single target hit. So, I mean, of course, we don't want to stretch this into the benefit you would get for it being support, but it is an AoE defense. So, I mean, it does have fall off, as you see. They just fixed the targeting on him, Godzilla. I mean, before they wouldn't hit these dummies right here where I have them. They do periodically still miss, but they're not near as bad as they were before. They do an incredible amount of damage. I mean, most maps, and they've got stupid range is the other thing. Look at the range on them. 61 meters without a buff beam. With a buff beam. Was I seeing things when it said 61? Oh, I had a striking gemstone on it. 36 meters. An AoE defense that's putting out 27 million damage. I don't know, y'all. They're pretty good. Are they? Where do they fall? If they weren't A tier, in fact, I would even argue they're better than an explosive trap. If they aren't, I mean, I think they would have to be A tier. I really do. They're better than everything listed here. Well, I don't know. That's kind of arguable. Are they better than a Holy Cannon? You can run a map with just those. In fact, I want to try a temple run at some point with just those. I think you might be able to clear the temple with it. You would have to add something in to help with flyers, even though they do incredible at flyer targeting. Yeah, it's cheaper than a Holy Cannon. That's true. That is true. So it would definitely rank higher than a Holy Cannon. Is it better than a DST? I think that's pretty debatable because of the wall hacks. I'm super tempted to try a temple run. I haven't done it before. Or tried it with spiders as the main defense. But I'm super curious now about that. Yeah, it's not better than DST just because of the wall hacks. I think that's a good spot for them. I think they're better than an explosive trap, but not as good as a DST. All right, now we got the Siren. Unless anyone has any major disagreements there with that one. And remember, although we are counting runes, this is a damaging defense tier list. So, with the rune, it would without a doubt be A tier. And then remember too, the Siren is DPS. Or pardon me, the Siren is AoE damage. So I think instantly it's got to come in above the mage. It's got to come in above all of this stuff. In fact, I think it's got to come in above at least there, in my opinion. I think it's better than a PDT. You think mid B for damage? I mean, yeah, I agree. I think if you included in the support benefit, it would instantly go up to S. But just as a damaging defense, it's 360 degrees. It does. It's AoE damage instead of single target. Let me see. I don't think I have a Siren set up. Did I look at that already? No, I don't have a Siren set up. So once again, you'd have to just double the damage output. Figure it's going to do... Is that Siren or that's Spiders? This is a DPS defense. Let me get rid of these bombers. So double that if it was a fused set. And it's AoE damage. So does it have fall off? I don't think it has fall off, but it might. Let's look and see if it has fall off. No fall off damage. So, I mean, pretty decent. Pretty decent. Figure double that damage output. It's hitting 4 times a second. So if you doubled it, that's 20 million DPS. It'd be 5 or almost 5 million 4 times a second. You'd say in between Holy Cannon and Flame Burst. I think that's pretty fair. Well, I normally do too, Godzilla. I just moved around all my gear. I don't know if you guys noticed my inventory size. Let me pat myself on the back here real quick. Look, y'all. Look. I sold off a gang of shit. 209. Oh, yeah. I got room. I got room. That's tough, man. That's a tough thing to do, to sell all your shit. But that's why the Siren's not set up. I would have the Siren set up. You think it's between Holy Cannon and Flame Burst? I think that's fair spot. Because it's not terrible damage. Now remember, we're not taking in the support benefits that you would, the obvious support benefits would catapult its value through the roof. A, because it gets air enemies. Well, I mean, you can select any of these to air targeting. Nothing won't hit air. I mean, I would have no problem with moving it to A tier, but I think if you move the Siren to A tier, you got to move the Holy Cannon up as well. What hurts the bowling ball is just its situational usage, I think. Because remember, what we're judging here is, this is the DPS category, or the damage category, in full runes and full endgame gear, with its situational usage. Well, yeah, the bowling ball obviously can't hit air. It'll try real hard, I bet. I don't know. If you set the bowling ball to target air, does it try to hit air? I mean, obviously the bowling balls wouldn't roll up into the sky, but I think that's a pretty good spot for it too. I don't think it's on par with these other defenses, but I do think it's really good. Remember, B tier is not exactly bad. You know, B does not stand for bad. It stands for better than all this other bullshit. All right. The shrooms. Where does it go, y'all? Where does it go? The rune gives it no benefit in a damaging defense situation. You can clear the keep with it. But where does it go? Well, I mean, do we need to take a look at its damage output? Do I have shrooms set up? Why is this not... Oh, there we go. I wasn't able to get that window back up. Let's see. Look at that. My shrooms are still set up from before. I haven't trashed my shroom gear. I shouldn't have sold the buff. Shrooms, of course, are going to require a rune. 3 DU. Their targeting has been helped as well. And it is an AoE blast. But I'm pretty sure it's got fall off. Let's see if it's got fall off. Well, remember, this is not for the memes. For the memes, shrooms would rank way higher. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. Memes are a glorious thing. Oh, shit, I put the tree too close. Let's go here. It does have damage fall off, but it doesn't look like it's terrible. I mean, are they F tier? Or are they at the bottom of C tier? If we had a D tier category, would they be D tier? What's going on, Aswarlin? Yeah, but that's not the... We're not factoring in any sort of hero buffs. I've seen it literally a million times. They're just... I know for a fact kobolds will blow them up. If you have 0 power, that means they're doing 0 damage. That means you never lit a kobold's fuse. Kobold explosions do indeed blow up the tower. I've seen it happen literally a million times. I've done a lot of work with the slice and dice. Unless something was changed in the last patch that wasn't put on patch notes, they 100% kobolds will damage them. The bottom of C tier. What does anybody else think? Do you think they deserve the bottom of C tier? I mean, that's true, I guess. Are they really F tier? Without a hero buff, you'd say low C. With a hero buff, I would say mid C. The hero buff doesn't help it as much as, you know. I'm good with low C. Yeah, this is the damage category with runes. So roots are in that factor. So you're going to have things like roots in there. Bottom of C. All right, so we'll leave it there for now. All right, the sludge launcher. Now, the sludge launcher does get a benefit from the rune. Oop, I forgot to change screens again. My bad, y'all. We got it at the bottom of C tier on those shrooms. The sludge launcher. Where does the sludge launcher go? Does it go into A? I think it's got to go into A. Is it as good as a DST? No wall hacks. I think the sludge launcher rune is better than a DST rune. I mean, it is arguable. Is it an S tier? If it's an S tier, you would have to move to DST to S tier as well, though. In my opinion. You think the spot is perfect? I mean, I think that's a good spot for it, too. It is an incredibly good defense and usable on every map. You think wall hacks are S tier, but not the DST itself? Well, the DST has got the wall hacks, though, as Warlin. I do think, as far as the runes go, the explosion rune from the DST, the range on it is so small that I think the sludge launcher benefits more from the rune. But I do think the DST is better than the sludge launcher, personally, in effective usage. Because remember, we're not just raw DPS. We're talking in a damaging scenario with endgame gear, with full runes, plus effective usage. If we were just talking DPS, the bowling ball wouldn't be down here. But I think that's a pretty good spot for it right there. I don't think it's... I mean, if anybody disagrees, by all means disagree. That's the whole point here. Everybody get your opinions in. Does it need to move, or is that a good spot for it? I think the Sludge generally has competitive and not better single target, but much better fodder clear than the DST. I think that's because of the rune. I would agree. IA is a good spot for it. All right, we'll leave it there and move on. All right, the Thunder Spike. This one, the rune makes it, man. Machine gun Thunder Spikes are the coolest shit ever. Let's take a look at them real quick. God, please tell me I got them set up. Let's see. Oh no, I can't remember who I had them on. Was it Butt Sauce? It was Butt Sauce. Don't take the name into the ranking, y'all. Just because it's named Butt Sauce does not mean it's not incredibly good. And now they're just not gonna, it's not gonna proc. It always machine guns off. There was 3. There's 2. What the hell? The rune didn't change, did it? No, it's a 50-50 chance. RNG hates me. There we go. There was a good string. I've seen it go off as many as like 8 or 9 times. Like pop, 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 pop. They're pretty cool. And for memes, I think they would rank super, super high. Because they are a super, super meaty memeing defense. Well, it only hits one. It's a single target defense. I did. I did a video doing it. It didn't one-shot it because it requires going off multiple times. It does require RNG, but, I mean, if you're going to put it in B, I would argue that it's got to be up there really high. Its situational usage is super strong. There's no way I would put it above an explosive trap. It's a single target defense. You can completely AFK the throne room on survival and let it run overnight with these guys, y'all. They're that good. Right, it's a completely different defense. It's single target versus AoE there. And I think just with the situational usage, the AoE would win, in my opinion. But where does it fall? Where does it fall? Cyberfire thinks it's A4, but that would put it above explosives, which I would disagree with. Because what saved you is the support, Godzilla, not the blockade. Oswarlin thinks it's a high B. Niftig thinks it's a low A. Cyberfire says high B. I think that's a good spot for it right there, high B. Right where it's sitting. I mean, you could arguably put it at the bottom of A. But is there much of a difference between the bottom of A and the top of B? I mean, you could even argue it's situational usage over these. High B is not bad. Well, we'll leave it there. We'll move it around as need be. All right, y'all. Before we start the argument of the Wisp, I gotta get a coffee. So I do apologize, but I'll go as quick as I can. Give me just a minute before we start debating the Wisp. I'm gonna rate the Wisp high, but I use the shit out of Wisps, and I think that's another one. Well, we'll have that discussion in just a moment. Give me just a minute, y'all. I will be right back. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, now here's the deal with the Wisp with me. It's one of my favorite defenses in the game, so I'm so biased, it's disgusting. Not gonna lie and try to hide it. Everyone says, oh, the Wisp got nerfed. The Wisp got nerfed. The Wisp didn't get nerfed. The Wisp only got buffed. But the lane schedules were changed. They had more enemies coming out faster, which inadvertently lowered the Wisp's effectiveness a little. Now, it does have the rune. Wisp's lower than the obelisk? Oh, I got a hard time with that one. It just didn't evolve with the game. See, I use Wisps. I can use Wisps on every map of the game and win as the main defense. And it still is kind of the throw down 30 and win. It still works. It's just people aren't trying it. It does really good. But where is it? Is it A tier? I mean, I personally think it's an S tier defense. But like I said, I am seriously biased. I've used them on every map in the game effectively. But where does it fall? It's A. I think it would be super high A. Is it better than a sludge launcher? Above DST? I mean, I would be good with that. I would be good with that. What do you non-Wisp lovers say, though? Say it would be above the ST, the 360 degree, and so much cheaper? I would agree. I would agree. You know, you have to where you rank them, you would have to compare to some extent. Well, I mean, I can show you guys my... Now, once again, I'm seriously biased, but if you look at my Warden list, you can see who I have put the most effort into. And that is the top of my list, my best geared Warden, as far as power level goes, is my Wisps. But once again, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not seriously biased, because I am. I love them. I think they're incredible. Wisps are more stackable. That's true. The usage of Wisps is a lot easier than many other defenses because it's stackable. Is it enough to put it into S tier? The range is crazy good. Absolutely. I think it's S tier. But I'm going to completely rely on you all. You guys can't see all the chat right now, but YouTube is saying it's S tier, Twitch is saying it's A tier. Oh, Blossoms are incredibly good. Do you guys think that the LT with rune is better than the Wisp with rune? Well, the problem, the Wisp rune would be way better if that explosion radius was bigger. The explosion radius on it sucks. I'm not going to deny that. With the changes throughout the updates, it's fallen out of S. I'm just looking at it. See, now I don't necessarily disagree with it being here or with it being an S tier, but I just look at these other defenses. Could I use it on maps that I beat Harpoons with? Yeah. Could I use it on maps I beat Plasma Defense Systems with? Yeah. Could I use it on maps I beat Owls with? I do feel like Owls are better. But yeah. So I mean, it's effective usage. I could use it in areas where, like the electric aura is, it's different in so much to all these other S tier defenses. It's hard to even decide where you would place that in the list. We'll leave it here at the top of A tier for now. LT is much better. I mean, that's a tough conversation. You know, and it comes, I mean, a big part of that too comes down to cool factor, which LTs definitely have a big cool factor. But for me, so do Wisps. It triggers every time it switches targets, so it triggers quite often. The LT one is only when it cycles targets too. But the difference there is the LT one hits everything in the range and isn't a tiny little area. So, I mean, as far as the rune, I don't think there's any comparison. The LT rune is way better than the Wisp rune. I guess if you look at it that way, because these are considering runes. When you look at it that way with runes, I think the LT is better than the Wisp. Yeah, if they get stuck on an ogre, they won't trigger, but on the same note, if they get stuck on an ogre, they're still chained into all the other enemies. We'll leave it there for now, and then we'll discuss further later. All right, the proton beam. Yeah, same thing. If a wisp gets stuck on an ogre, no more boom. Absolutely. The proton beams are so powerful, but they lose so huge in effective usage. I mean, I can't disagree. Just because proton beams are instantly going to get sucky-suckied by the first gen that rolls by, and then your proton beam does nothing. Everybody on Twitch is saying F tier. What do you think, YouTube? Here, we'll switch over so you guys can see each other's chat here and discuss it. Let's see. And here's the example. Oh, what? Oh, look at me. I must have found a really good, does my PDS have Arcanist on? Yeah. Not runes. Let's get it runes so it's an even comparison to the other comparisons. And you got 4.2 million damage, 4 times a second. So we got another 16 million plus AoE DPS. However, you get over to the effective usage category. The effective usage category drops its credibility down so far. Because where are you going to use it? I mean, early game, it's incredible. But as soon as you hit Nightmare Mode and you get Gen, these guys instantly go away. I would agree. I think it is lower than a bowling ball in effective usage. Well, early game, everything got nerfed, but as soon as you throw your first couple points of stats into power, the other thing that makes Proton so stupid early game is that you only need to focus on power. You can ignore all other stats, and they shred. So it's so easy to gear them until you get to Nightmare Mode, and then when you get to Nightmare Mode, they cave in instantly. So where do they go? Are they F tier? Are they the bottom of C tier? Yep, the rune gives them no benefit as far as a damaging category. Oswarlin says low C tier. Bunch of YouTube folks saying low S tier. F for fantastic. I wouldn't disagree with either of those placements. I think the effective usage of them is so bad. You have to force yourself to use them in endgame. I think that alone would either take it to F tier. It can't hit flying enemies. That's the downside. It can't hit flying enemies, but a flying enemy can make it disappear instantly. I think it would either be the bottom of C tier or the top of F tier. Well, that's the thing, is we're not taking early game into consideration. That was more just a comment there, Oswarlin. This list is just end game, fully ruined. Oh, we used to have contests, Godzilla, back in the early days of DDA on chair and table stacking. I think it's got to go F. In an end game situation, it's just its effective usage is so bad. All right, that brings us to the Ogre. The Ogre's another one. If we're talking end game meme builds, ba-bam. But that's not what we're talking about. Where does the Ogre go, y'all? We had that Ogre out to show the damage. The damage is actually really good. And this is looking at it in a damaging situation with runes. So let's throw a buff beam down first, just for the fair comparison. And 5DU. It's hitting what? Is that once a second? It says 0.69. I guess it's like 1.5 times a second. They do incredibly well. I think one of the things that would really hurt it is the effective usage category, because remember, we're talking about just DPS, not its wall aspect. You figure its ranged attack hits like a truck, but it only flies off like what? That was 177 million damage on that Cobalt Explosion. If it did what the rune said it did, every 3 seconds, that would be incredible. But it doesn't shoot every 3 seconds. Well, that's the thing. That ranged attack blows everything up. I mean, there's not much besides ogres that have that much damage. And the Kobold range is map wide as well. So it will throw to anything. Now the Kobold will blow up if it hits a wall. High C, low B. I think you guys are generous. I think it's definitely a high C. I think it's better than shrooms. I think it's better than a bowling ball. I think it's better than an inferno or a sniper. It's better than a mage. It's better than an obelisk. This one is going to have the effective usage that's real similar to a slice and dice. Yeah, it's more fun than efficient, no doubt. I mean, in effective usage, I think the obelisk would actually win, to be honest, even though the ogre is going to be so much more damage. But where does it fall? I think C tier is a fair I would rate Obelisk higher as well. It's just because, you know, the effective usage. The Obelisk is just going to do better. And its range attack is going to be more than once every 10 seconds or whatever. Is it better than a mage? Mid-C? I think mid-C is a fair point. Below sniper cannons? I mean, when you take the range into consideration and the rune into consideration, it could be below sniper cannons. But where does it fall? Well, that's just not where people put it, Pro Ace. I mean, its targeting is sketchy compared to a Poison Dart Tower. The damage output is nowhere near the same as a Poison Dart Tower, but it is AoE versus kind of single target with the chance of hitting something else. Worse than a mage? You could arguably say archers if you're talking endgame and ruined. If you're talking just in progression, you could really use any wall. You'd have to argue that the spike blockade. Well, that's the thing. The Reflectar is support. We're not counting it at its damage. Its damage doesn't reliably hit things. We're not taking support into consideration at all in this setup. Below sniper. That's multiple people have said below sniper. So we'll leave it below sniper there. I think that's fair. Its effective usage is not great. You know, when you're talking about damage. Now, obviously, if you want to get big damage out of a wall and you want to have a little fun and throw in some memes in it, then the Ogre would be S tier. But let's leave it there and let's move on. So we got the roots. The roots, remember, not taking into consideration support. So when you're not taking support into consideration, what is their damage output really like? It's not great, y'all. It's not great. I think the thing with roots is it has to be considered a support defense. If you're judging it just by its merits as a damaging tower, I mean, it's the bottom of the barrel, right? It's not as good as any of these other defenses. I mean, it would be the lowest. The 1 DU is the only reason we'd even put it in the conversation, I think. Anybody disagree? It does have good range. It hits lots of units for nothing. I mean, F tier is F tier, right? You could put it wherever you want. I mean, I think that's a good spot for it, but I mean, is that really making it any better? Still shit, but a lesser grade of shit. That's just a meme. You know, we're not trying to do anything for memes here on this stream anyway. We have plenty of meme streams out there. I think we leave it there and we could dispute after we get everything else placed. We got the heat cannon. The heat cannon is a force, y'all. It's a force. However, For effective usage, it needs that but. You know, but you need to use a striking. Is it B1 or is it somewhere in A tier? That's the thing, is I've been saying this whole time that we're not going to say but. And Flame Cannon is one that would be S tier if you gave it the but. But we're not giving it the but. Not that kind of but, you dirty-minded people. I'm talking about but you need a striking on it. The damage on it, especially with the rune, is absolutely incredible. Say a low A. Well, the problem is we are talking raw DPS, but we're also talking effective usage. Flaming Owl is ridiculously good, Niftig. You need to give it a shot, man. Try it out. Well, we are talking buff beam. We're talking a DPS defense as you would use it. So with a buff beam every time. A buff beam is into consideration for everything here. Flaming Owl is incredibly good. I think that's a good spot for it. I think that its DPS, as far as just the numbers, would be S tier numbers, but I think that its effective usage brings it down. I got up to I want to say 340 on Foundries and Forges with Owls fully AFK Dune Eater difficulty overnight run. 340 with Dune Eater difficulty, and that was AFK, so I don't even know why it failed. I was sleeping. Yeah, but the Owls are incredibly good. Well, this is fully upgraded. Once again, we're not saying at level 1. We're saying as you would use it. So upgraded on a buff beam. It was me and my wife. It was 2-player. All right. We got the strength drain. The strength drain, of course, being something new and fancy, I think everyone is going to rate this one higher than what it should be in a non-support situation. The Owls definitely have the line of sight. There's no doubt. Owls require line of sight. But they're so powerful. Well, everybody wanted to put it in. I didn't have Strength Drain in the conversation. Strength Drain requires an enemy dying. So that's true. It shouldn't even be in the conversation. I agree 100%. Strength Drain doesn't do any damage on its own. It requires a butt. So it shouldn't even be in the conversation. Because if it doesn't have something else killing things, it does 0 as far as damage does. The best Huntress weapon, DPS weapon, is from the Summit. Rifted Massacre, Dune Eater bonus difficulty, hardcore. Yeah, and they don't do explosion damage. Rank the days of the week. I mean, we know where Monday falls. Every other day is debatable. No, well, Spike Blockade attacks on its own, but it does nothing. It does so little that it's not even in the conversation. It would fail in effective usage as a DPS tower. Anybody have any disagreements at where anything here is currently listed at? Well, I mean, Buff Beam is S tier, 100%. I don't think anyone disputes that at all. It's S tier in every situation, whether it be for memes. Electric Aura might be number one. Yeah, I mean, Buff Beam is that's just what you're going to use. You know, let's just go ahead and be a bunch of elitists and say, if you don't use a Buff Beam, you're doing it wrong. Because you're just doing it wrong. Harpoons are... Does anyone have any disagreement with the order of S tier? Harpoons come in very high. There is no doubt. They're incredibly good. Well, it boils down to the whole picture, is the thing. Electric R's do an incredible amount of damage. See, I would disagree. PDS would not be the top of the list for me. You think it's good as it is? The PDS has a dead zone and it's got line of sight. If the PDS had wall hacks, it would be the most powerful thing in the game. But without wall hacks, I disagree. I don't think it's number one. I think it's S tier, no doubt about it. I mean, you could argue that. Those defenses are very different. So you could argue that the LT would be better than the electric or the electric better than the LT. Oh, Blossoms are incredibly strong. The question is, are Blossoms the best damaging defense in the game? That's what we're saying here by putting this right here. The S1 slot means it's the best damaging defense in the game. Does everybody think that's the case? We got Poons greater than Blossoms, and I can't disagree with that. Because a Harpoon is going to shoot right through and hit multiple enemies, where the Blossom, to do that, requires a butt. It's a really tough call on this number one spot. Man, if you guys all vote Poons as number one, I am going to fucking celebrate. You guys know how much I love Poons. You think Poons and PDS over Blossoms? I think Blossoms are better than PDS. What's going on, Suck? Hey man, it's my first one ever. The first time ever I've done a tier list. Now, 6 months from now, when I'm doing tier list rating North American potato chips, then yeah, we got a real problem. I think there's situations where PDS is better than any of these things. But I think as overall usage, I just don't think it's the best thing in the game. But what is? What is, y'all? In fact, I think that's something that's going to require a poll that runs for a few days where we can get a whole lot of people to vote. You would say of those three, the PDS is the best? I don't know. Blossom can do every map. And it wrecks them. Poon, PDS, then Blossoms? The best tower is your DPS in Warframe. I agree. 100% there, Suck. Alright, so people are saying Poons, PDS, and then Blossom. Well, I mean, let's look at them in game. Let's see. Who's this? Wrong homie. Let me Make sure that root rune is not in. We don't get a bunch of damage numbers going off from it. I mean, that's a lot of damage, y'all. 34 million 5 times a second. It's single target, absolutely. Without a but, it's single target. What is that? That's 170 million single target DPS if you do the math. 34 times 5. And then if we look at a Poon, so what did I say? 34 times 5. 170 million DPS. Single target DPS. Oh. The unequipped Mr. Monkey. You guys ready to see Big Sad? Big Sad. Oof. I mean, you can't argue the Blossoms hit for so much more damage. Figure these are doing 32 million plus the rune. The rune is once a second, right? 32 plus 24. Actually, you could say 33. 33 million plus 24 million. That's 57 million DPS. But I said no buts. It does pierce. So you're going to do that damage to everybody. I mean, it's big boy damage. I think that one is one that's going to require more than a live stream conversation. I think that would require, like, if we got 1,000 people to vote, I wonder where it would come out. I think Poons win too, but I'm biased in that category too. I'm very, very biased there. So what I'll do is I'll throw a poll up on the YouTube community page. Put all three in a map on the same lane, see who does the most DPS. Yeah, I mean, we could do that. Let me see. Let's look at them one more time. Oop, oop, oop. So it was... Currently, we've got it set Poons, PDS, and then Beaming Blossom. Stupid Epic with their notifications pop up. Blossom. And then we've got... Is that runed? That is runed. Let's see. Let's run into the ultimate tester map here. We'll just automate this lane. Actually, this is the lane we should use for testing, huh? Let's not... We'll automate this side instead. That way we don't have to look at it. Let's go 2 and 2. We're going to have plenty of DU on this one. That way we don't have to look over here. All right, and then over here... Let's just go with a electric and a snare. We'll throw down 1 Poon. I guess this isn't really fair. Let me back it up. I'll make it a little more fair. We'll throw down 1 Poon. 1 Blossom. And 1 PDS. I mean, I think the PDS is going to rule the roost here. Because it's going to be hitting stuff all over the map. Just to make it even, we'll put them all on the same buff beam. Let's get our auras back. And then we'll throw... Let's just do that. And that. All right, let's let it run and check it out. No, I won't intervene at all. So no pets, just letting it run. Well, I mean, Dune Eater too. That's another one of the situational thing. Harpoons are just so great for that situation, you know? Long straight lanes. What is all that white damage going off? Got a lot of white damage going off in there. I didn't throw a strength drain in there, did I? The Summit. Massacre Hardcore Rifted Mix Mode. Alright. I will join you here. Let's just look at it after a wave. Well, we can look at it after each wave. Oh, I finished Game of Thrones last night. I need some new material, Cassier. Any suggestions? I am all for it. I think it's different. Games are different, not necessarily better than each other. I enjoy the gameplay loop more in DDA than I do in DD2. Does that make it better? No. DD2's got more bugs than DDA. But does that make DDA better? No. DD2 is way prettier than DDA, but does that make DD2 better? No. All right, let's see. A tier 1 with no upgrades. The Harpoon did 4 billion damage. The Beaming Blossom did 630 million. The PDS, whoa, damn. DD2 killed your family, oof. That is a big variance. Well, let's slap a couple of ups around. And let's let it run through the map here. I have watched Star Trek Picard. I debated on watching Disco again, which I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do another Disco watch. I've watched Discovery twice now. Archer's not a bad thought, though. I haven't watched Archer. Tier 4, Tier 4, Tier 4. Get the buff beam full jacked. Let's just leave it at that. See, I think part of the Poon outperforming the PDS, there's no reason for it. The PDS is hitting targets all over the entire map, right? But the Beaming Blossom has a targeting issue here, so I don't think this is really a super fair comparison between the Beaming Blossom and the Harpoon. What? I still don't know what all this white damage is coming from down here. I mean, it's not very much. Any thoughts on what that might be, y'all? Oh, it's the Siren. Derp. I didn't even think of the Siren. Going good there, Rubik's Cube. We're just finishing up a tier list now. We're trying to decide what is the best of the best defenses. Like, in what order does S tier go? We are up to 9 billion damage dealt, 1.3 billion damage dealt, 3.13 billion damage dealt. I've seen Yellowstone. Just for lulz. 891 million. Then again, we didn't give it any upgrades. We gave it a buff beam. Alright, do we have enough to... We don't have enough to take them all up, so I'm not going to upgrade them. Actually, we might. Let's see. Tulsa King. That's that one with Sylvester Stallone, isn't it? DST was the top of A tier, is where it ended up. Peaky Blinders is an idea. I've never watched that one all the way through. I started to watch it, and for some reason I stopped watching it. Well, yeah, but the Poon is destroying the PDS output, and the PDS is hitting the entire map. So, I mean, in this situation, you would think the PDS would be out DPSing the Harpoon. The Blossom, admittedly, does not have as many targets, you know, but the PDS, it's hitting everything on the whole map. It literally has line of sight into every lane. And yeah, and the PDS is more DU. You know, Dexter's a thought too. I never finished Dexter. I never watched it all the way through. Yeah, the higher difficulty map rewards more XP. If you're assuming you're in Massacre, Rubik's Cube, you can't go wrong with Foundries and Forges. It's got a whole lot of chill value. It gives a great amount of experience. What tier 4 map is the best for the runes? Foundries and Forges in Act 4. It's just a one-stop shop. It's a real chill farm. It's great for XP. It's great for runes. It's hard to go wrong with just chillaxing it out in Foundries and Forges. Of course, you'd get more, slightly better loot and more value out of playing mixed mode, but survival on that map, you can let that survival run for hours and hours and hours. The best pet for a Squire is without question the Monkey King. If you wanted a range pet for your Squire, then you'd want to go with either the Bomber or the Penguin. But as far as best overall, considering you're going to be in melee range all the time anyway, a Monkey King would win that without a doubt. What's going on, Zorkoi? How you doing? Oh, come on over. Do we have DU left? I'll get that ogre. Oh, he blew him up. Look, he's so low. He's like 1 HP. Why is he not dying? His health bar is non-existent. There we go. All right, let's look at the final. Like I said, I don't think this was very fair for the Blossom, as it had very limited targeting opportunities. 13 billion damage. More than double the PDS output. And remember, the Harpoon pierces, but the PDS has 3 projectiles. So it hits 3 targets at once. And the map-wide coverage. So I don't know. I personally would definitely rank the Harpoon higher than the PDS. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think? You disagree with that? You agree with that? I think the question comes to the Blossom. Is this the correct order for the top 3? Harpoon, PDS, then Blossom? It brings another discussion in the owls. Because you could almost really do this and put the owls above the Blossom. Aramir sending me an invite. Harpoon, Owl, PDS, and Blossom. I would agree with that. But what do the rest of y'all think? Does it go like that? Yeah, if there's more ogres, a Beaming Blossom is going to wreck it. Let's see what Aramir's got going on here. Dang it, man. There we go. Let me get an actual DPS hero here. Here, we'll just go this route. Let's see what we got. Flamethrower, Spider, Reflect Beam, and Ensnare Aura. And that's it. Wow. Let's check it out in action. I mean, it's shredding. Let's watch this double lane here. We got 2 PDS over there to handle the flyers. Holy spiders, Batman. Good lord, man. Oh, it is melting. See, we didn't bring the owl into the factor there. We should have put an owl in with that and not just done those 3. Because I think an owl is way better than the PDS, personally. I think in effective usage, the PDS would win the battle just because of the map-wide range. But in most other cases, I think the owl would beat it. Now, again, as Warland mentioned, there's an issue with owls at the moment. They're getting more power than they should be out of defense rate overcap, and that's going to be getting nerfed. But how bad is that? He's doing really good. Well, the owl doesn't have line of sight issues. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to require line of sight. But its damage output is considerably more than a PDS, is the thing. So it's a trade-off of massive damage versus map-wide laziness coverage. That's another thing, too. If you brought in lazy AFK builds, then yeah, the PDS is going to be S tier on most things. PDS on air? That's what I had assumed. That seems really stout, though. Ruined buff beam. That's crazy. Oh shit, wrong button. Oh no! Don't hit me, bro. Good lord, man. Learn how to rogue, for God's sakes. I hit all the wrong buttons. What are we missing? That's weird. Stupid spider. Oh, we're missing that one. Gotcha, gotcha. I don't see it. Oh, it's already down. Or no, where the hell is it? Oh! Something snuck in on us. Just one lane you need to figure out. It seems pretty stout. I mean, that just wrecked. I couldn't see even on the tech map. I didn't see that last Guardian anywhere. I feel like we got robbed on that one, Aramir. I feel like we got robbed. Oh, the stats are going to be through the roof. I mean, if you're doing a spawn camp build on the arguably the hardest map on the game, then yeah, it's end game maximized stats designed for speedrunning. All right, let's get back to the discussion. So where do these belong? I mean, I'm pretty happy with this order right now. I recognize the fact that the PDS is everyone's crutch right now, but I don't think the numbers quite lie. I think that until you give these other defenses a chance, I mean, you've got to play them to be able to compare them, right? Anybody disagree with that list anywhere, though? Or this order? I'll do a shorter YouTube video going through all these too. Well, see, that's the thing. What targeting issue? Because they don't really have targeting issues. They target exactly the way they're intended to target. Well, I mean, you can use all three of these defenses to clear every map on the game easily, Kessler. I mean, one is not better than the other as far as just beating maps. Well, really, off the top four, I mean, you'd use an electric car on every map, too. I think people got real lazy with the PDS, and I think everybody's going to vote the PDS up. I've been saying since day one the PDS is situational. So, I mean, I just don't believe that the PDS is better than either of these two, personally. Well, that's a matter of proper placement, Godzilla. Why are you not placing them on top of the shrub? Good lord, man. Put them on top of the shrub, for God's sakes. Anyway, y'all, I think we'll save this one for now. We can come back. The Blossom would smoke the DST and damage output as far as single target damage. Let's oops. Let's save this one for now. No support or hero boosts. Let me see if I can get you guys a URL here. Well, that's a bad example though, because it's all targeting. It's all proper placement. You can't use an example and say, if you don't build properly and you put these things down here where they can't hit anything. not to be mean, but that's basically what you described. You described a bad build. So we're assuming a good build, you know, where you would put the things in range to target everything. Anyway, y'all, that is going to get it for me for today. I am going to condense all this down into a watchable 10-minute version or whatever, and give some of my own opinions in a YouTube video. And then I'm also going to put up a poll on best defenses. It's going to come back PDS. Everybody's going to vote PDS number one, and the reason is because people that do polls don't give a fuck and aren't going to actually compare all the defenses. They're going to say, I use PDS, so it's got to be the best. It's dinner time for me, Aramir, so we can get together later on Discord or whatever. But anyway, y'all, that is going to get it for me for tonight. But anyway, hopefully everyone has a wonderful week. I'll be back tomorrow. I might actually play a little Warframe too. That new game mode has got me very curious. It's been fun. I dipped around in it a little last night. I played a map with Sophisticus, Insanity, and Rahl, and we went to like mob level 1800 enemies in Warframe last night. It was pretty ridiculous. And then those guys went higher than that after. I was holding them back. But anyway, y'all, that is going to get it for me for today, though. I'm going to go get me a little grub, and I will see you all tomorrow. Like I said, I will condense this stream down to a watchable version that's like 10 minutes or whatever and throw it up on the YouTubes. But anyway, thanks an absolute ton. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon. Take it easy.